What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 2 of the WWE Main Roster Recap. This is leading into some more previews and some more information leading to the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, which is coming up in just a couple weeks. We kick off Monday Night Raw this week, February 4th, with a segment involving Stephanie McMahon and Becky Lynch. Stephanie invited Becky to Raw to ask her some questions regarding her injured leg, and Becky comes out there again, refuses to admit her leg is hurt, refuses medical attention, and is ultimately suspended by Stephanie McMahon until she agrees to see a doctor. Stephanie basically just lets her know that it's a liability to let her compete at WrestleMania if she is not 100%. And Becky responds by attacking Stephanie McMahon. It's an unfortunate situation, but we will get more into the Becky Lynch situation when we talk about SmackDown in just a little bit. Moving on from the first segment, we have Ronda Rousey defeating Liv Morgan by submission, and then immediately defeating Sarah Logan by submission as well. Ruby teased going in to face Ronda herself, but bailed at the last minute. Moving on from this, we have a fatal 4-way to determine the number one contenders for the Monday Night Raw Tag Team Championships at Elimination Chamber. We had the Revival versus Heavy Machinery versus the Lucha House Party, and I'm failing to remember the other team involved. But anyway, it ended up being the Revival winning, and they will face the Revival ultimately won the match via a roll-up on Heavy Machinery, and they will face Chad Gable and Bobby Roode at Elimination Chamber for the Raw Tag Team Championships. This makes me question the validity of their release. I don't see them winning at Elimination Chamber if they are being released, and if they do win, then I don't see them leaving. And it's a confusing situation because many people are expecting them to go to, but don't know what's going on there. Having the Revival be number one contenders sort of throws a wrench in that theory. At any rate, moving on from this, we have a segment with Zack, Ryder, and Curt Hawkins, in which Ryder vows to Hawkins that he will help him end his undefeated streak. We go from that to Kurt Angle in the ring, appearing to give a retirement speech, but being interrupted by Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin. They insult Kurt Angle, calling him an old man, saying that he's a has-been, and this prompts Braun Strowman to run in and make the save. We had the Boss and Hug Connection, Bayley and Sasha Banks, versus Nikki Cross and Alicia Fox, and the winner would qualify for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship Elimination Chamber match. And before the match, Cross and Fox attacked Bayley and Sasha, actually ultimately injuring Sasha, which forced Bayley to face Nikki and Alicia by herself. Bayley fights solo, fights valiantly, and picks up the win for her and Sasha with a roll-up on Alicia Fox. So Bayley and Sasha Banks have qualified for that tag title match inside the Elimination Chamber. We move on to the Elias and Jeff Jarrett segment. It starts with Road Dogg in the ring and bringing out Jeff Jarrett, and they tried to do that With My Baby Tonight song again, but they were interrupted by Elias. For once, it's Elias doing the interrupting, not the other way around. Elias defeats Jeff Jarrett in a pretty solid match. Jeff Jarrett can still go at his age. He's very good at what he does. He always kind of has been. And it was pretty cool. The gear he was wearing was not reminiscent of his old school WWE gear, with that strappy thing that he wears. He was wearing like what he used to wear on Monday Nitro and the early days of TNA. And it was pretty cool. Jeff Jarrett puts over Elias, which is the correct move here because the fans are behind Elias 100%, and they should be. Elias picks up the victory on Jeff Jarrett and is then attacked by Road Dogg and gets the guitar smashed over his back by Jeff Jarrett. We had what was supposed to be an Intercontinental title match between Finn Balor and Bobby Lashley, but ended up being a match between Finn Balor and Lio Rush. Finn Balor defeats Lio Rush via the coup de grace. Moving on from this, we have a Moment of Bliss segment where Alexa Bliss was actually interviewing EC3, which is pretty cool. We finally get EC3 on Monday Night Raw. We've been hearing he's coming for a long time now, and it was great to see him finally show up and be there. Before he can even say anything, Nia Jax comes out for some reason. And not far behind is Dean Ambrose, who tells Nia Jax that he finally figured out what's going on here. Claims that Nia Jax has a crush on him, but she needs to stay away. He actually said that, I get this all the time. You're not the first person to be attracted to my raw sexual energy, which brought out a chuckle from Renee on commentary, which was hilarious. He then asks Alexa, after the stuff with Nia, he goes, by the way, who's this guy? And points at EC3. And before EC3 can even tell him who he is, Dean smacks the microphone out of his hand. This leads to a match in which EC3 defeats Ambrose. Did EC3? Moving on from the EC3 and Dean Ambrose segment and the match, we have Mojo Rawley continuing to yell at himself in the mirror. I don't know where this is going, but hopefully it goes somewhere. Raw is capped off this week by Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin versus Curt Angle and Braun Strowman in a tag team match. Braun Strowman looking dominant in the ring as he always does. Curt Angle looking fantastic again this week. Almost tapped out to the ankle lock to McIntyre, which is what humiliated him a couple weeks ago. But ultimately, McIntyre and Corbin pick up the win via DQ when Braun Strowman is in the ring illegally and attacks Baron Corbin, who was the legal man. Which is literally the first time I can ever in my life remember that rule actually being enforced in WWE. It was pretty weird, but whatever. If it's leading, I'm sure it's leading to something. So Raw this week, okay. The women's segments were definitely the better segments. seeing EC3 get a win on a former on a Grand Slam champion on his debut was pretty cool. Also picking up a clean win, not having a weird finish. The Revival getting number one contendership for those Raw Tag Team titles is perfection. The Ryder and Hawkins thing, pretty cool. But other than the Becky Lynch story being continued, and Bayley and Banks qualifying for the Elimination Chamber, and the EC3 thing, Raw not as good as last week's episode, but still, I do feel like we are moving in the right direction. We are definitely in a new time that is not as trash as most of 2018 was for Monday Night Raw. But, moving on to Tuesday night, February 5th edition of SmackDown Live. We kick off this episode with Charlotte in the ring, claiming that if Becky Lynch is hurt, she knows somebody who would much rather face Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania and take the Raw Women's Championship. Of course, talking about herself. She then points at the WrestleMania sign, but while she is pointing at the sign, she catches in her eye the man Becky Lynch walking down the steps. So Lynch gets in the ring and basically gives the same sort of promo she gave to Steph about how Steph is not going to take away her moment, and neither is Charlotte. This brings Triple H to the ring and tells Becky Lynch that you are suspended, you need to go home until you see a doctor. Charlotte is making fun of Becky Lynch while Triple H is explaining the situation to her, and Triple H turns around and says very sternly to Charlotte that this does not concern her and she needs to get out of here. So, hopefully, that was sort of WWE's way to kill the rumors of Charlotte being added to the WrestleMania match. Because the one thing that doesn't need to happen is Charlotte getting involved in another, or Charlotte getting, I don't want to be mean about it because I do like Charlotte, but we can't have Charlotte continuing to get in the way of the Becky Lynch storyline. But anyway, Triple H tells Becky Lynch that he's seen this 100 times. Says that rather than fearing that the doctor won't clear her, she's afraid that the doctor will, because she doesn't want everyone to know that the man fears Ronda Rousey. Now, this prompts a slap to the face from Becky Lynch to Triple H, which makes me think that in storyline, there was truth to what Triple H said. So, I am definitely liking the direction that the Becky Lynch storyline is going. And I like it because it is the authority storyline, but not done in the typical way. Typically, we see the authority figures trying to take away moments from fan favorites, wherein this time, you want to believe that the intentions of the management are good. They do not want to see Becky further injure herself, so they do not want to see her lose her WrestleMania match. And they don't want to see her lose her WrestleMania moment. So, you want to believe that the intentions of the management are good, which is what makes this authority storyline different to, like, the Daniel Bryan one, or the Roman Reigns one, or the Seth Rollins one. So, very good opening segment to SmackDown. Very good continuation of the Becky Lynch story. Moving on, we have the match that was set up on the previous week's episode. Shinsuke Nakamura teaming with Rusev to take on the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. Nak and Rusev defeat the Good Brothers. So, who knows? Maybe, you never know what this is going to lead to with Nakamura and Rusev. Moving on, we have some more tag team spotlight, where the Usos cut a promo on Shane McMahon and The Miz. prior to us finding out that the Usos will appear on Miz TV next week. Moving on from this, we had Randy Orton versus Mustafa Ali, and Randy Orton picks up the victory after picking Ali off of the ropes. Ali was setting up for the 054. Randy Orton rushes him, takes him off the ropes, sets him with the RKO, picks up the win. Now, immediately after this, Samoa Joe comes out of nowhere and chokes out Randy Orton. Then kicks Mustafa Ali out of the ring. This is all build to the epic Elimination Chamber match. Moving on, we have a segment with Daniel Bryan and Erick Rowan. So Daniel Bryan cuts a promo about being the Planet's champion. We're keeping the whole Captain Planet thing going with the eco-friendly belt and all that. And he claims that he has to defend his title inside the Elimination Chamber because the people in the back don't want him as champion. So, we'll see where that goes. That didn't really prompt any response from any authority figures, so who knows? We'll see where that goes. Moving on from this, we had a triple threat tag team match with Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose versus Carmella and Naomi versus the Iconics. Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose picked up the win. We then had Andrade, Cien, Almas, and Zelina Vega cutting a promo on Rey Mysterio after last week Andrade attacking Mysterio. We cap off SmackDown this week with the main event, Jeff Hardy versus Daniel Bryan. Jeff Hardy actually picks up the win via DQ when Erick Rowan attacks Jeff Hardy. So, Raw and SmackDown, both main events, and via DQ. That is something that WWE likes to do. So, after this, Daniel Bryan locks the LaBelle lock on Hardy, which prompts another appearance by the Samoan Submission Machine, where he chokes out Daniel Bryan after attacking Erick Rowan. This, of course, brings Orton, Ali, and Styles to the ring, who clash and brawl around the ring, and Daniel Bryan manages to escape, and the show closes with Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles locking eyes. Daniel Bryan on the stage, AJ in the ring. So, SmackDown this week, top-notch stuff. Raw this week, good, not as good as last week. I'd say Raw probably got the C+ to B- for me this week. SmackDown, I would give B+ A-. So, there you go. That is the main roster recap for this week. This is all leading to what I think is going to be some pretty cool stuff coming from the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. So, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you like what you see, if you're not subscribed already, please do. Like the video, share it with your friends. We want to bring in as much pro wrestling love as we can to our channel here. So, as my buddy Tim will tell you on the Armbar Audio Podcast and Impressions of Impact, wherever you are in the world, whether it is morning, noon, or night, you have a great one. Peace and love to all of you. And as I always say, you all stay too sweet.